Hi everyone, thanks for joining us today. Today we're going to make a yellow split pea soup. The first thing I'm doing is cleaning the split peas. This is an important step to do because sometimes when you buy lentils or split peas, you'll find small stones in them. So rinsing them off, you can kind of check, make sure there's no stones, get all the debris and dust off, and then set those aside. The vegetables I'm using in this soup are an onion, potatoes, carrots, and celery. The first thing I'm doing is dicing up an onion. And the reason I wanted to make this soup at this time is because we grew potatoes in our garden last year and we had some left over that stored all the way into March. So they're getting a little bit soft and this is a perfect time to use up those potatoes. So you'll dice up your potatoes. I used 4 small potatoes for this recipe. I'm using 2 medium-sized carrots and 2 stalks of celery. Once you have all your vegetables diced up, you're going to heat your pot up to medium heat and add 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil. Once the oil is hot, you'll add your onions and celery first. You're going to cook your onions and celery down until they're translucent before adding the potatoes and carrots. Onion and celery are both high in fiber. They're very good for the gut microbiome to help keep healthy bacteria in the intestinal tract. They're high in antioxidants and fiber. Now once your celery and onions have cooked for about 5 minutes and they're translucent looking, add your carrots and your potatoes. Potatoes I always think of as almost a superfood. They're high in potassium, they're a great source of fiber and complex carbohydrates, and carrots are an excellent source of antioxidants as well. For this recipe, you will also need 4 cups of vegetable broth, which I've pre-measured here. The spices you will need are 1 teaspoon of ground cumin, 1 teaspoon of marjoram, 1 teaspoon of basil, and 1 teaspoon of dill. Now I'm using fresh dill here today because I happen to have some left over from a prior recipe. One tip is when you're cooking beans, lentils, or in this case split peas, you'll want to add your salt at the end of the cooking process. And the reason for this is because the salt will prevent the outer fiber from breaking down and softening up, and they will never get quite as creamy as you would like. So add all your spices at once, and you're going to dry roast these for 1 to 2 minutes before you add any of your liquid. Some of you might be wondering why we're using yellow split peas. I prefer those in this recipe because they're much more mild in flavor than the green split peas. And if you're making this for children or someone who is new to plant-based eating, they may find this more palatable. Here we're adding our 1 cup of cleaned yellow split peas and our 4 cups of vegetable broth. Once you have your broth and your split peas in your pot, you can now add a couple bay leaves. I usually add 2 or 3. And then you'll bring your pot up to a boil. And you're going to cover it and turn the heat down to a low simmer. You will check this every 10 or 15 minutes just to make sure it's not over boiling. To really soften up the split peas and give this soup a nice creamy texture, it will have to cook for approximately 2 hours. As you can see, I'm checking this now. This has been a little over an hour at this point. So I'm going to keep it covered on low heat and continue to stir it. And after 2 hours, you can see now, I'll take my bay leaves out and the soup is very nice and creamy and all the split peas are really broken down. At this point, you're going to add 1 teaspoon of salt and fresh cracked pepper. And there you have a beautiful, nutrient-dense split pea soup to enjoy for dinner and lunches for the week.